This is Access to Experts, where we ask the questions you most want the answers to, right? Okay, so my very special guest today is going to tickle your brain with all kinds of questions that you want to ask about getting in touch with those influencers out there. If you're confused about how to reach out, what do I say? How do I connect with them? How will they respond? And what do I say after they respond? You're in the right place because Colleen Biggs is award-winning business coach, consultant. She has launched over 340 businesses, so she knows a thing or two about getting out there and connecting with the right people. So here we are, Colleen. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited. I'm super excited about today.
Yeah, and this is a wonderful platform that you have created for so many individuals to be able to join you and answer these burning questions that a lot of business owners have out there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled you were able to make it. So well, first, let's talk about your main company. You're all about getting people to leap out there and
Yeah.
create businesses that actually get results. So tell us, how did you get there? Why are you so passionate about supporting women in particular?
LEAP and the acronym LEAP really supports my underlying love for high performance habits. And LEAP stands for Lead with Enhanced Acceleration to Reach Your Peak Performance. And many of us really don't put ourselves out there, Anne, to even try to see what we're capable of, and taking the leap. Everyone really understands, my podcast is Take the Leap. The name of my programs are Leap. The Leap community is a community I run for business building women. And all of it really stems from us taking a kind of a risk and knowing that we're going to be able to land on our own 2 feet. I'll say that as a peak performer, there are certain habits that we really have to put in place for ourselves every single day to be able to excel. So knowing what those are, having that kind of framework really is what assists me every day to move the needle in my business and become, successful.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited about getting those nuggets that you have, those strategies, those systems. You said something really important. You said leap, but land on our feet. Well, that's exactly the challenge. How do we know we're going to land on our feet? There are certain things that have to happen because as a serial entrepreneur here for many decades, most of the time I'm happy to say I've landed on my feet, but a few times it was on my derriere and that hurt. So what are some of the things we need to know to maybe pull the lever, on our side when it comes to landing on our feet?
You talked about influencers earlier and how do you have those conversations, right? And for me, it all starts with your belief in yourself.
Yeah.
So if you believe in yourself and you believe that your product or your service, what you offer is needed, in demand, and you solve a problem, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to land on your feet because you have something that is in demand from from society, right? Here's the other piece to that. When we launch a business, it is very crucial that we have a clear plan. And I see that those that don't, right? Here's the difference. You get into a car, you get into a boat, wherever, you get into an airplane. If you're headed a certain direction, a pilot is going to make sure that that plane, based on the coordinates it puts in, is going to reach its destination. When we get into a car, we put in coordinates of an address. We're going to reach that destination. Our map is going to tell us how to get there. We're going to get into a boat. We're going to set the coordinates. We're going to reach our destination. I see so many women get into business, men too, and they never set the coordinates. There's never a goal. There's never a business plan. There's never action steps that are laid out. There really isn't a clear path on how they're going to get to that success. So when I say take the leap and land on your feet, you've got to have the tools and the habits aligned up for yourself so that you're able to land on both feet. And I don't ever leave anything to chance. I don't play the lottery. I just don't. I don't spend a dime on lottery tickets because I think it's a waste. It's a chance. I'm more of like a sure thing. And yes, have I made some investments like you, Anne? And have I landed on my derriere? Yeah. But I learned. And that's not going to stop me from doing investments like that in the future. That just was a bad investment of that one thing. But then now I learned. And so every failure I've had in my business has been a lesson that I've learned. And I still am standing. I'm still on my feet, right? So I think we need to look at the bigger picture. You're going to stumble just like you did when you learned to walk. You're going to fall off your bike just like you did when you got on it for the first time. But when we practice and we practice and we practice and we surround ourselves with people that know how to ride the bike, right? Then we're able to get there faster with less bumps. Let's say that. Less bumps and bruises.
Absolutely. I love it. So I could just ask you all kinds of questions about a whole bunch of things when it comes to business. But I do want to focus on reaching out to collaborative partners. Like, let's say you and I, right? Right now, we decided we like what the other one is doing,
Mhm.
and it would be of a value to the people we're supporting,
Yes.
starting from that place. And so that I'm very transparent in everything I do. It's like, here's what I'm doing, let's do it too. And so, this conversation right here, what I would like to do is for you to share your, those tips, those hidden tips, the little or big ways that you actually reach out to get a response. Because when we keep in mind that the person we're supporting is the most important person, we all are supposed to focus on
Yeah.
them. All of a sudden, we see all these possibilities of all these other people who are working with the people that we want to support. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
It can.
I'm glad you said that because this really comes down to relationship building, Anne, right? And I want to say we got to strip everything back and really kind of think of it this way. I tell every single one of my clients, I want you to flip the hat around, right? Flip the hat around and become the customer. So now you were the person that was selling to the customer. Now you're the customer. How would you want to be approached? How would you want someone to talk to you? So, I believe in servant leadership. So, I believe in serving and earning the right to be a leader and servicing others. So, if I want to reach out to someone who I feel might be out of reach for me, or maybe I have in my own mind put them on this pedestal, and I will give you an example. Mike Michalowicz is a really great author of Profit First, and he's a number one bestseller on New York Times and USA Today, and I'm like, wow, he's way up there as an author compared to me, little old Colleen Biggs writing some books over here. And all I had to do was reach out, flatter him, tell him about clients that I'm putting through Profit First, really talk to him like a human being. And I say flatter him, meaning what kind of compliments can you give that person? How have they changed your life? What have you done to implement maybe some of the things that they teach on? Or maybe you were influenced by something they said one day, a quote, and all of a sudden your eyes open. You were like, wow, I never looked at it that way. And then you changed everything in your business. Could you let that person know? Could you reach out and say, hey, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for writing this book. I applied these skills. It changed my life. I mean, our businesses have changed completely because of implementing Profit First and having the money, and we've excelled in our businesses and grown because of that system. So I wanted him to know that. So one, reach out to that individual and tell them what they've taught or done or whatever it might be that has changed something or that you've utilized in your life. So compliment them. And then I think the next thing on that is if you want to be able to collaborate with them, ask them if they would be willing to have a conversation with you based on an idea that you had that you felt could be a huge win for both of you. I learned this in negotiations about 25 years ago. I started negotiating commercial leases. And one of the most important things was everybody wants a win. So if you go at it like, I want the strategy of making it all about me and I get the best deal and I'm going to screw this landlord, I'm sorry, but they're not going to go with the deal. But if you go in positioning yourself for a win-win for a contract that's not only going to win for you or your client and win for the landlord, plus it's a protection for both of you, that contract is, then they're all for it. Everyone's looking for what's in it for me. So, how do we make people feel special? How do we let them know that I think this JV opportunity that we could have here could benefit both of us? Let's do this. Then they're more apt to want to have a conversation with you because they don't think then you're reaching out to them just for your own selfish reason to say, and that happens to me, Anne. People will reach out to me and say, hey, I'd like to collaborate with you, and it's all one-sided. They want me to market this and do that and do this. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to win in this situation. Right? Yeah. And we have to
Yeah.
remember that.
No, that was a great point. It really is. And I'm happy to say that recent years, I keep meeting people, the coaches in particular. Right now, everybody really needs some support. Regardless of what we do, we have to coach people on how to use our products and services, anyways, regardless of what it is. And so those who are really focused on serving their clients, they're able to see all the different ways somebody else can support them. Let's again going back to you and I, you know, you're working with some of the most amazing people. And I got to see you in action when you invited me to your networking last month. I got to see how you give to your people. I got to see how they adore you because it's just an environment where you're supporting everybody instead of no, you can't cross promote. You can't do this. You're like, hey, connect with each other. Here, do this. And that environment is what I am looking for. People who are not afraid to share. And
Mm.
so whenever I'm reaching out to somebody, I already have what I call my collaborative wheel. And the question is, who else does my client need to be supported by to be successful, starting from there. And then I look at, well, who is successful, who is the publicist, who is the publisher, who is a business consultant, who is all the other things that maybe I know how to do for my own business, but I need a professional for the next level. That's where I start. And seeing what you do within your group, I was like, oh, she's doing the same thing. She is doing the same thing. And so the question here is, should we be looking for like minded people whose styles are similar to ours? So the clients that we are introducing them to are not going, they're not getting a splash of cold water in their face, if you will, right? So, what do you look for when you're reaching out to somebody as a collaborative partner?
I'm glad you said that, and you hit the nail on the head by not feeling competitive, or that someone else is going to take something away from you. I think I might be the only Facebook group out there that allows their members to promote themselves as much as they want. I say if you have an event, promote it. If you're looking for speakers, promote it. If you have something you want to share, promote it. I really feel like we as adults can pick and choose what we want to attend. And it's not my responsibility to limit how much they can promote because I want that group to be all about me. That group isn't about me. That group is about all of the female small business owners that are in there hustling and growing and grinding in their businesses, right? So I want them to promote themselves. So, number one, I look for is a collaborative attitude. If someone is already feeling tense about, I'll give you an example. Another business coach does a lot with me in my group. Her name's Katrina Sawa. She's been a member of my group for a few years, and I invited her to come and run my business mastermind with me that we do once a month in the community. Now, many people would say that have a competitive kind of mindset would say, why would you do that? This is a chance for you to spotlight your business skills. This is a chance for you to spotlight what you know, coach the women in the mastermind, and, really show off so that you could get them as a client. I said I could do that if that was the purpose of the community, but it's not. The purpose of the community is for the women in there to bring questions for 90 minutes and get answers and get freely coached. And I don't want to be the only one in there coaching. I want you to come and coach because you have so much knowledge in areas that I don't. And if someone asked a question about a marketing or about, a technology or about something else that I didn't have the answer for, I want them to be able to walk away with those answers. So as a community, when we come together and elevate each other, even if we do the exact same thing, we benefit from it. And both Katrina and I, for example, doing the exact same thing. We have the same title. We do the same thing. We have benefited so much from each other, not only in our network and the people we've been introduced to, but in our net worth with how much money we've made sharing back and forth and just referrals and opportunities for each other.
Yeah, that is a great point. And so, do you think that the competitive ways people get in business, if you will, there's not enough for everybody? Do you think that's what's stopping people from reaching out, or is it fear of rejection? What's really going on there?
Okay, fear of rejection is probably the number one. So, I was in a mastermind about 5 years ago. One of the ladies in the mastermind really wanted to reach out to, I can't remember who her name was online. She was on Instagram. She's a singer of Christian songs, and her mind, her for some reason, something is skipping my mind. Lauren Daigle. It was Lauren Daigle. She reached out to her on Instagram and DM'd her because all of us were like, why wouldn't you just DM her? And she's like, oh, because she's not going to respond. She probably has all these people responding. Well, she was actually responding to her Instagram. So she responded and had given her some advice, and they went back and forth, and she freaked out like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Lauren Daigle responded to me. Here's what we have to remember. People are just people. You're the one that puts them on the pedestal, right? So I think it's fear. Number one, it was fear for her, afraid that she wouldn't write back. And I was like, so what? So she doesn't write back. So what? Like, what do you lose, right? Why wouldn't you just still do it? It doesn't matter if she doesn't write back. So that was proof that you put yourself out there and things can change. Just like I shared about, Mike McAllowitz. Same thing with Mark Victor Hansen. I wanted to interview him on my podcast, and he's a huge author. And come to find out, I found out he lived right here in Arizona, and I reached out. Well, sometimes you just reach out. If we have a fear of doing it, I want to ask the person listening, where's the fear coming from, and what's going to happen if you do and they don't respond? You're not going to die, right? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? And I do this with everything. Like, if death is not on the list, go for it. We can recover from bad money investments. We can recover from bad marriages. We've all recovered from a lot of things out there, losing a job, losing a client, a bad investment, whatever it is. We've all done it, right? So I really do think it starts with fear. But then when you have a competitive mindset, you're always going to feel like this other person is a competitor, meaning you're constantly going to be paying attention to them. And this drives me crazy. I had one client that did this, and she would say, well, you're not going to invite that person, right? Because they do what I do, and they're a competitor. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. We're not going down that road. We are not going down that slippery slope. You do not do what they do. You might have similar what you do in your business, but you're your own brand. You do it differently. You bring you to the business. You offer this, 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 and this. They offer that, right? So I think when we get into that mindset, I'll give you a good example. You've got Apple and you've got Android. There are so many Apple fans out there. By the way, I will not buy one thing Apple. I don't own anything Apple. I'm not one of those fans. I don't have a Mac. I don't have an iPhone. I have Androids. That is what I mean, that's just how who I am and the tools I like to use. So there is a customer, and you don't have to compete like that, right? You're going to have customers that love this and you're going to have customers that love that. There's enough work out there for everyone. Competition is ridiculous. You want to compete in a marathon. You want to compete in a run, compete in taekwondo, or compete in something like that. Or I just don't understand why anyone has to compete in the business realm, because when you collaborate, like many hands make light work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I've had the same conversation with quite a few of my clients too in the past, until what I ended up doing is saying, well, how many people can you really service? How many clients can you really show up for? You know, And as soon as I asked that question, they're like, oh, yeah, there are a lot more out there than I could handle. So knowing who to reach out to is the key. Knowing who to really invest in, learning and sharing is key. But one thing that I think is really important, you brought it up, we're all different. If we had three people saying the same exact thing, we can give them a script, the same exact thing, we would resonate with one more than the other two, right? And so I love that you brought that up, because there's nobody else out there like you. As a matter of fact, that's why I always, when we're creating, the signature stories for interviews, always focusing, okay, what's your expertise and what's your life experience that supports your expertise? Who else on the planet would ever have the same story? Nobody. Yeah, and yeah, so I love that you brought that up. So for those who are still hesitant,
Mm,
who are nervous because internally they feel like maybe they're not up to par. Maybe they're new in business. Maybe they don't have the
mhm.
licenses, whatever they think they're supposed to have. And reaching out to those we put on a pedestal. What is a simple thing that they can do? And I love that you said, just say, hey, thank you for writing that book. Here's what I used from that book. And because we all want to know that the work we're doing is impacting people's lives. So that's a great tip, reaching out. But how do we respond? Let's say, oh, thank you very much. I love that you love my book. We're like, oh, what do I do now? So how do we continue the
Mm.
conversation so it opens the door?
We don't even have enough time, if you and I never got off of here for the rest of the week, to talk about how to be fearless. I'm just going to be honest. That is the number one thing that holds everybody back in life from everything that they want to do, is this being fearful, this false evidence appearing real. And I can't in one episode talk about how you move from being fearful to being fearless. It has to do with who you surround yourself with. It's a combination of who you surround yourself with, what you're putting into your brain every day, what you're reading, how you're journaling, if you're meditating, do you take care of yourself? What are you putting in your body? How are you sleeping at night? There are so many factors to creating what I call peak performance or high performance habits. And it really starts with those pieces. If you aren't doing those things every single day, then, and you're not taking care of yourself and you're not positively paying attention to what you're doing, then fear will creep up on you a lot, constantly, actually. And so how I would respond to someone that got back with me versus how someone in a fear state would respond is going to look very different. Because as soon as that person responds, I'm going to be on it, thanking them, telling them how appreciative I am, telling them what I think our next steps should be for us to have a conversation. Where someone coming from that's coming from someone who believes in themselves and is confident and isn't fearful. Because what do I have to lose? Taylor Swift, one of the biggest stars in singing today, sells out 2 auditoriums 2 nights in a row, every single city she goes into. So she's singing to, 30,000 people. Some people are extremely intimidated by that. If she got in contact with me, I'm not going to freeze up and not know what to say, and freak out. It's going to be a conversation like, hey, Taylor, I just want to let you know I really appreciate you for XYZ. And this is what I think, and blah, 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 and we're just going to have a regular conversation because she's a regular person. And I think the biggest mistake we make is putting people on pedestals, and they don't want to be on a pedestal. I remember a client told me once, "Oh, Colleen, we put you up on a pedestal." And I said, "Don't, because I'll fall."
Yeah.
And so I think if we just really not, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't respect. I grew up in a time where your grandmothers and grandfathers and great grandfathers and parents, you respected them. You respected other adults. That was a big deal. And I think that that's something that's very admirable. And we should respect those that are wise and have so much, right, that they can teach us. It would be the same if I sat down with Oprah Winfrey. I would want to know so many things about what she did and how she did it to learn from her, right? If learning is beneath us, then leadership is beyond us. So I guess I have to ask the question, what could really happen that's so horrible by responding when someone does reach back out? So you've done the initial reach out, they've responded. Try not to be a giddy little schoolgirl that's freaking out over the cute boy, right? And just respond in an adult manner. What are you looking for? What is the win-win for both of you that you see could be a good combination of how the two of you could do something together? I mean, for me to go to Oprah and say, "Hey, Oprah, I think it would be a benefit for you to put me on your show and let me co-host." How's that a win-win for her? Right? That's me saying, "I want this, so give this to me." And I think that people are so self-consumed, and social media self-consumed with the vanity likes and the all the vanity stuff that happens out there, that they forget that underneath it all we're just humans craving connection. How do you
Yeah.
give that to another person?
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so like you said, we could be here for hours talking about it, but we do want to wrap this up. So, my takeaways first start with who it is that you're supporting and who you want to reach out to support your community, because it's always a win-win. Don't be afraid of competition, because even if they do the same thing you're doing, you can support each other, you can support the same clients. So more is better if it's the right kind of person with a similar mindset, the one that's playing win-win. Okay. So next is once you have that in place, then you intentionally choose certain people to reach out to and have a reason for doing so. It's best if you know what it is that you have taken away from their teachings and use it. Reach out to them and thank them for the contribution to your life, to your business, to whatever it is, and be sincere about it. And even if they don't respond, you have done something great by appreciating another expert. If they do respond, then it's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I think it would help both of us and the people we're supporting if we did this together. So have a plan of action as to why you're reaching out and what it is that you like, and then follow through. Do I have all this right?
Yes, and wow, you were just Spot on listening. I love it. You did an amazing job wrapping that up with a beautiful little bow.
Well, thank you. No, I love what you shared. And again, I just love who you are and the way you're showing up and supporting your community. And that's why, I was like, hey, I got to introduce you to my people. And, it just happens naturally. So I so appreciate you. But before we wrap this up, I would love for you to share one takeaway, something that people can take away with them and use it immediately.
Wow, we talked about 5 things that they can take away already from today and use immediately. I think that the biggest thing I'm gonna say is, if you're running a business and you are feeling like there are other competitors out there and your mindset is definitely in that competitive mode and you already know that you're struggling and you have fear, you've gotta find a tribe, you need to get into a community, you need to get coaches around you that can support you in the growth and what you need. Do not try and do this alone. I think that's the big thing that I would share with their community and everybody out there today.
Love it, love it. And those of you who have joined us today, thank you. And you'll find links below this video wherever you're watching to get in touch with Colleen, which I know you'll want to do. So, Colleen, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you and all the great information you have shared.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with this, we're going to wrap this up. I'm Ann Devere, and this is Access to Experts. And I have asked the questions you most want the answers to, right? And right the ones that maybe you have some more questions. We'll bring Colleen back next time. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.